This is what I hope will be the first of a series of sort of informal chats about Taijiquan, the kind I might make if you invited me over to dinner, perhaps. So I won't try to get up and make any demonstrations or do anything of that kind, but I'll talk about what to me are some of the more interesting aspects of this art. Now, I've been teaching it for 50 years, and so I've had sort of ample time to make all the mistakes that people can possibly make in it. And I want to give you the benefit of that. At the same time, also make you realize that in confronting my particular teaching of Taijiquan, you will be encountering something that is completely unique and different in terms of what most teachers are offering today. Now, this is not because I have reinvented the art, but instead, I think it's because I have actually tried to get to the actual basic fundamental structure of how it actually works, and also to its historical roots. But before I even go into that, I'd like to make one thing clear. Despite the fact that, like I say, my approach might seem kind of unique, ever since I've started doing this, even from the very first time I ever started teaching, I have had people approaching me and telling me that they would be happy to enroll me in their particular academy of Taijiquan or their unique association and give me some sort of bona fide and tell me that I am certified to teach. And I just want to make it very clear that I am not of this category, and I don't want to do this with anyone. Taijiquan has an extremely long history, and now it's been spread out over a kind of enormous range of people studying it, which no one ever anticipated when it was invented. So it has gone in a whole bunch of directions which have more or less authenticity in terms of historical authenticity. But I also think that Taijiquan has a methodological and a unique kind of approach that has a kind of, you can be very purist and theoretical about. So, like I say, I want to make sure that it's understood that I'm not trying to dictate what anyone does in terms of their particular version of Taijiquan. But what I do want to say is that after all these years, I feel that the way I'm approaching this art is uniquely interesting and uniquely fascinating, and also uniquely connected to its actual historical roots. Now, some hint of that is given by its original name, which is Changtuan, which is usually translated as long boxing. However, this is actually a kind of misleading translation. It really means continuous. Anything that goes on and on and on, that's long. It goes on for a long time. So this is the real meaning of long boxing. You might say it's continuous boxing. Now this is very interesting to me because although I knew this name of long boxing for a long time, that was the original name of Taijiquan, I didn't connect it for a long time with an experience that I had before I ever heard of Taijiquan, when I was still studying karate. And, I and my old partner in the Taiji business, Martin Yin, were students of Peter Urban in his maniacal karate school in New York City. And one night he told a story. He said, the Chinese have this way of sparring in which they go in slow motion and they just exchange, and they don't try to win and they don't try to lose. They just try to keep the thing going so that they keep discovering new techniques and new things. And we said, wow, that's very interesting. On the subway back to my apartment, where he was staying for the summer, we said, wow, let's try that as soon as we get home. So we did, and we found that it was impossible to do, that as soon as we tried to do it, we started speeding up immediately. And it became immediately what we always did, and we stopped and said, no, let's not do that. Let's not speed up. Well, when we didn't speed up, then it felt like everything we were doing was completely phony and artificial. And so, as soon as we tried to get rid of that, then it sped up again. And so we finally came to the conclusion that it was really very difficult to do. Well, the problem is that you can't base activity around a negative. You can't say we're going to have this activity together and we're going to base it around all the things that we don't do. So we just are going to have a fight, but we're not going to really have any desire to hurt each other. We're not going to have any kind of ego intrude into any of this. We're not going to, we're not going to do a whole bunch of things. And this actually just doesn't work. What really does work is a method in which both parties devote themselves to something which automatically creates sophistication in boxing. Now, I've always liked to compare this a little bit to Confucianism. I don't know a lot about Confucianism, but in terms of what I do know, it would be a pretty good analogy to this thing of Taijiquan, and that is the idea of getting a whole society to act in such an enlightened way just by legislating it into existence that they become enlightened by the practice of it. And Taiji sort of does this because Taijiquan is the method by which you achieve the goal of continuous boxing. And this is why Taijiquan is so misunderstood, because I'll say almost all methods of martial art are aimed at ending fights. Everything about the method that you learn is about how to finish the fight. And if you don't end it, it means you should have done it faster or sooner or harder or more forceful or something like that. This is the usual concept. And so, although all martial arts give lip service to the concept of continuous, change, this is always, oh yeah, continuous change is great. But they don't have a method to produce continuous change. All of their methods are based on ending the fight. And Taijiquan has this unique property in which it is really a sort of mechanism for churning out sophisticated movement. Now, what is the secret of sophisticated movement in boxing? Well, the secret of sophisticated movement in boxing is footwork. Footwork and timing. Because after all, it doesn't do any good to take the right step if you take it at the wrong time. So sort of footwork and timing are inexorably linked in terms of what you have to actually do when you're using it in boxing. But there are, I think, no school other than Taijiquan that actually has a method for teaching footwork. It's usually considered a kind of natural talent, that's footwork and timing thing. And so this is why I think Taijiquan is so unique. But one of the things that makes Taijiquan unique, and part of its legend, you might say, is the way in which it is very paradoxical and enigmatic and sophisticated and hard to understand and so forth. And one of the prime examples of this is the fact that the basic method, in fact, the sort of enlightened method by which you study how to take steps and how to make good footwork, is by practicing a method in which you don't move your feet at all, in which you keep them absolutely fixed. Now, the reasoning behind that is something I'll discuss at some other time. But the point is, this is very sort of emblematic of Taijiquan's whole structure. But the problem is that you can take every practice that Taijiquan uses to instill these techniques, and you can make the mistake of thinking that that practice itself is something designed to be used as a martial art. In other words, to be imposed upon the other person. So it's natural that one would think that the practice of not moving your feet is to teach you how to not move your feet when you're attacked. And it seems very strange, I'm sure, to hear that actually the practice of not moving your feet is expressly for the purpose of teaching you great footwork. So, as I say, this is more to the purpose of what Taijiquan is really for. because footwork, great footwork, is the secret of this the use of Taijis. Now, the point is, what is the method that a Taiji uses? Well, the method that it uses is the one built right into its name, Taijiquan. You make Taijis. What is astounding to me is how many teachers and people who profess to know about Taiji don't seem to think that there is any need to actually do this in any sort of real physical way. Now, I wrote a book called The Theoretical Basis of Taijiquan, in which I tried to outline the fact that you must be skillful at making Taijis with your opponent or with your partner. And we blur the distinction in Taijiquan between opponent and partner because, and this is something that a lot of martial artists find suspicious about Taijiquan, is that we, in practicing Taijiquan, we require both parties to be equally concerned with the act of making Taijis and to be equally concerned with the act of creating something that is continuous rather than broken. This was something that was always said about Taijiquan. It's a kind of watchword for it. It's continuous, not broken. So, the point of the kind of classical Taijiquan is not to produce someone who never moves his feet. The point of classical Taijiquan is to produce someone who moves his feet in an extremely skillful way, and almost immediately, the second he's touched by the opponent, or even before he is touched. This is something that belies the sort of unspoken goal of most people who study Taijiquan. But most people who study Taijiquan haven't really analyzed what their actual goal is. If they think of a goal at all, they think of it as perhaps this ability to discharge an opponent. This sounds like a wonderful way to end a fight because it sounds very non-violent, like you haven't injured anyone, you've just like thrown someone away, it's fine. But this practice of discharge is not a weapon. It is not something to be used as a weapon. It's something that sort of became as a weapon as a sort of historical sort of accident between Taijiquan and Shaolin Chuan and some other very double-weighted stances. But that's, as I say, subject for another talk at another time. But the point is that Taijiquan by itself is not designed to make you someone who never moves his feet. It's designed to make someone who moves your feet with the lightness of a fretted stair. And this is something that's much more reasonable and understandable to real boxers. This is why I like to think that my teaching is for boxers, is for people who have done other kinds of martial arts, perhaps, who can understand that we're not trying to develop some kind of superpower here, but we're trying to develop a very sophisticated way of relating to each other, which produces a very elegant kind of game and art, which I have found fascinating enough to devote my whole life to.